My name is Charlotte Wells. I'm 70 years old. After my spinal surgery, my 4 children promised they'd take turns staying with me. 1 week each. Simple math. Day 1, no one came. Day 7, still no one. Day 15. A nurse looked at the empty chair beside my bed, looked back at me and asked a question I will never forget. "Ma'am, do you even have a family?" I was discharged alone. I took an Uber home. I sat in my kitchen in the house my late husband Harold built, and I opened the desk drawer. Inside was a leather ledger. Harold gave me the year we married. 30 years of entries. Every dollar I ever gave my children. Every loan. Every bailout. Every broken promise. But here's what none of them knew about what that ledger was about to cost them. Welcome back to Alpha Mom Stories. This is where mothers tell the truth, and the truth has receipts. Drop a comment if you've ever felt invisible to your own family, and be sure to subscribe. Let me tell you who I was before March 14th. I worked in education for 40 years. Started as a reading specialist in 1986, ended as the district administrator for Ridgemont Unified. 22 years running the central office, $12 million annual budget, 216 employees. I signed off on every purchase order, every payroll batch, every contractor bid. I kept the numbers clean because sloppy books mean sloppy schools. Harold, that was my husband, was a civil engineer. Bridges, mostly. Strong, quiet man. He died 6 years ago. Heart attack in the garden on a Saturday morning. He was planting hydrangeas for me. I finished planting them myself that afternoon because the roots would have dried out, and Harold would have hated that. We built our house together in 1989. 4 bedrooms. White siding with green shutters. An oak tree. Harold planted the year Greg was born. That tree is 35 feet tall now. I can see it from every window. After Harold passed, I stayed. People said the house was too much for one woman. 4 bedrooms and 1 body, they said. But I mow my own lawn. I do my own taxes. I drive a 2018 Honda Accord with 42,000 miles on it. I practice yoga 3 mornings a week at the community center. Harold gave me a leather ledger the year we married. Brown soft, the kind of leather that darkens with age. He said, "Write everything down, Charlie. If it's not in the ledger, it didn't happen." So I did. I wrote down every birthday, every milestone, every dollar that moved through our family. 30 years of ink on those pages. I thought it was our family's history. It was something else entirely. In February, Dr. Kohler told me I needed spinal surgery, lumbar stenosis. The nerves in my lower back were being compressed. The pain had gotten bad enough that I was skipping yoga, and I never skip yoga. 3 weeks of recovery, he said. You'll need someone with you. I called my children that night. All 4 of them. Greg is my eldest, 47. Owns a construction company, Wells and Associates. I co-signed the startup loan in 2008. He lives 40 minutes from me. Sharon is 44, divorced twice, lives in Arizona now. I paid for both divorce lawyers. Nathan is 40, internist at Mercy General. I paid for medical school, all 4 years. Brielle is my baby, 36, single. Tried to start a wellness brand in 2019. I funded that too. I told them the surgery date March 14th and asked if they could take turns. 1 week each. Greg jumped in first on the group text. "I'll take week 1, Mom. Don't worry about a thing." Sharon, "I'll fly in for week 2. Nathan, "I'm a doctor, Mom. Week 3 is covered." Brielle, "I'll take whatever's left. Love you, Mama." I screenshotted that conversation. I still have it. 4 children, 4 weeks, 2 sons, 2 daughters, all within a 2-hour flight. Simple math, even for a 70-year-old retired administrator. I went into surgery on March 14th, feeling something I hadn't felt since Harold died. Safe. Surrounded. That was March 13th. By March 14th, my phone was already quieter than it should have been. I woke up from surgery in a room with a blue vinyl chair next to my bed. The kind that reclines if you push hard enough. Harold sat in one just like it during my hysterectomy in 2004. He brought a paperback and a bag of peanut M&Ms. He didn't leave for 6 days. Day 1. The chair was empty. My phone showed 2 texts. Greg, surgery go okay, construction emergency here, I'll be there tomorrow. Sharon, flight got rescheduled, so frustrating. Soon, there was a selfie attached. She was by a pool. I could see palm trees. Arizona doesn't have flight delays. Day 2. No Greg, no Sharon. Nathan sent me a link to an article about post-surgical recovery exercises. 15 pages. 0 visits. Day 3. Brielle's flowers arrived. A delivery service, pink carnations, and baby's breath in a glass vase. The card said, "Heal fast, Mama XOXO." I smiled at the nurse when she brought them in. Then my eyes started watering. Not from emotion, from the pollen. I'm allergic to carnations. Brielle never remembered. I asked the nurse to move them to the hallway. That night I pulled out the small notepad I'd brought from home, old habit from the district office. I wrote the date, March 17th, wrote each child's name, drew a column promise/delivered, Greg week 1/no-show, Sharon week 2/not arrived, Nathan week 3/link sent, Brielle remainder/flowers allergenic. The blue chair sat there, empty, waiting for someone who wasn't coming. I told myself it was early. 3 days is nothing. People are busy. I told myself that for 12 more days. By day 7, I had memorized the pattern of ceiling tiles above my bed. 12 rows, 14 columns, 168 tiles. I counted them twice to make sure. The woman in room 412 had 3 children and 7 grandchildren. They rotated like clockwork. Tuesdays, the daughter brought soup. Thursdays, the son brought magazines. Weekends, the grandchildren drew pictures and taped them to the wall. I could hear their laughter through the shared wall every afternoon. My wall had one get well card from Brielle and a printed out article from Nathan. Day 8. Nathan sent a food delivery, shrimp tempura and crab rolls. I'm allergic to shellfish. He's a doctor. He either forgot or never knew. Day 9. Sharon called. 7 minutes and 12 seconds, I timed it. She talked about her Cabo trip for 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Then, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I said, "Fine." She said she'd check her calendar about visiting. She didn't call back. Day 10. Greg texted, "Thinking about you, Mom. Things are crazy at the company." He included a thumbs up emoji. No question mark. No visit. I watched the nurses do their rounds. Maria, my primary nurse, had started pausing longer in my room than the others. Checking my vitals took 3 minutes. She'd stay for 10. One afternoon, she glanced at the visitor log on my clipboard. It was empty. Mrs. Wells are your children in the area? 3 of them, I said, within a 2-hour drive. She nodded slowly, adjusted my IV, didn't say anything else. But I saw her face. That look healthcare workers get when they're calculating something they can't put in the chart. Day 15. Discharge day. Maria came in at 7 a.m. for the final vitals check. Blood pressure, temperature, pulse, ox, everything normal, everything stable. Physically, I was healing on schedule. She unclipped the visitor log from the bed rail and looked at it. 15 days of empty lines. Not a single signature. Not one. She looked at the blue vinyl chair. Still in the same position it was the day I arrived. Nobody had sat in it. Nobody had moved it closer. Nobody had draped a jacket over the back or left a coffee cup on the arm. Then she looked at me. 6 words. She said 6 words that rearranged my entire life. "Ma'am, do you even have a family?" The room went quiet. The monitor beeped. The hallway hummed. "I have 4 children," I said. 2 sons and 2 daughters. Maria's face changed. She started to apologize. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wells. I didn't mean—" "It's all right," I said. "It's a fair question." I signed the discharge papers at 9 a.m. Maria asked who was picking me up. "I'll call a car." "A car? An Uber?" She stood there holding my chart. A 32-year-old nurse who had spent more time with me in 15 days than my 4 children combined. "Mrs. Wells, would you like me to call someone for—" "No. Thank you, Maria. You've done more than enough." The Uber driver was a young man named Patrick. He asked how my recovery was going. I said fine. He asked if my family was waiting at home. I looked out the window. "Something is," I said. The house smelled like dust and lemon pledge. The cleaning service had come on Monday. Harold's photo was on the mantel our 35th anniversary. Him in a blue tie, me in the green dress I still own. His smile hadn't changed in 43 years. Mine had changed in 15 days. I walked through every room, kitchen, living room, den upstairs, bedrooms, each one exactly as I'd left it. Nothing moved, nothing disturbed. Nobody had come in to water the plants or check the mail or leave a note on the counter saying, "Welcome home, Mom." The mail was stacked by the door, 3 weeks' worth. Bills, flyers, a catalog for garden tools. I sat down at Harold's desk, the oak one he built from lumber he salvaged from a school demolition in 1995. I opened the bottom drawer. The ledger was there. Brown leather, darker than it used to be. Harold's handwriting on the first page, "For Charlie. Write everything down." I hadn't opened it in months. I flipped through the pages. Decades of ink blue for regular expenses, black for loans, red for anything over $10,000. There was a lot of red. I didn't count that night. Not yet. I just turned the pages and let the numbers blur. Then I picked up the phone and called Frank Calloway, Harold's oldest friend, a state attorney in the next county. "Frank, it's Charlotte. I need your help." "Charlotte? How's the recovery?" "The spine is fine. It's my family I'm worried about." "I think my children are planning something." A pause. Then Frank said something that turned my stomach cold. "Charlotte, Harold told me to watch out for this. He just didn't think it would be this soon." I couldn't sleep that first night home. The pain medication made me drowsy, but the thoughts kept me sharp. Drowsy and sharp, a bad combination for sleeping, a good one for planning. At 2 a.m., I got up, made chamomile tea in the dark, sat at Harold's desk again. I opened my laptop. Checked the bank account, something I'd been lazy about since Harold died. Savings $340,000. Checking $28,400. Pension depositing monthly. Social Security depositing monthly. I lived modestly. Store brand cereal, coupons for the grocery store. I hadn't bought new clothes in 2 years, but I knew there was more. Harold's trust set up years ago, managed by Frank. The rental properties, 3 units we bought together in the 90s. I'd let Frank's office handle everything because I trusted Harold's systems. I hadn't looked at the statements in years. I opened the ledger to a fresh page, wrote the date March 29th, 2026, drew a header, audit, 4 columns, 1 for each child. I started with Greg, page 1, 2008, $200,000 co-signed business loan. I remembered the night. He'd called at 11 p.m. panicking. 3 weeks from bankruptcy. I wrote the check at the kitchen table while Harold made coffee. I filled in 3 lines before the pain in my back told me to stop, but the list was longer than 3 lines, much longer. I looked at Harold's photo across the room. "You were right," I said. "I should have listened sooner." The next morning, I called a home health agency, hired a woman named Rosa Medina to start the following week. I needed help with recovery, but more than that, I needed someone in this house who wasn't pretending. That night, I made a decision none of my children expected. I decided to count. Rosa Medina arrived on a Tuesday with a canvas tote bag, a blood pressure cuff, and a container of homemade chicken soup. "Mrs. Wells, you eat more," she said on day 1, eyeing my refrigerator. "Too thin for a woman who wants to fight." I hadn't told her I was fighting anyone. Rosa was 45, Dominican, raised 3 kids on her own after her husband left. She'd been a home health aide for 12 years. She didn't sugarcoat. She didn't pity. She showed up at 8 a.m., left at 4 p.m., and in between, she made me walk, stretch, eat, and move. By week 2, I was walking to the mailbox without the cane. By week 3, I was doing laps around the block. Rosa walked beside me, timing each lap on her phone. 2 minutes faster than Monday, she'd say. At this rate, you'll outrun your children. She didn't know how right she was. In the evenings after Rosa left, I worked on the ledger, page by page. Year by year. I cross-referenced bank statements Harold had organized in binders by decade. Every check I ever wrote to a child I verified with the bank's records. Rosa noticed the ledger on the desk. "What's that book?" she asked one morning. "My memory," I said. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she set down the soup. "My mother kept a book like that. She called it her receipts. She said people forget what they owe, but the numbers don't." I liked Rosa. She didn't ask what the numbers were for. She just made sure I was strong enough to use them. 3 weeks after my discharge, the children started calling. Not because they were worried, not because they felt guilty, because enough time had passed that they could pretend the silence hadn't happened. Greg called on a Saturday. "Hey, Mom, how are you feeling? We should do dinner soon." He said dinner, the way people say rain check. No date, no plan, no mention of the 15 days. Sharon left a voice message. 47 seconds. I timed it. 40 seconds were about her new apartment in Scottsdale, her trainer, her book club. Then, "Oh, and hope you're healing okay." 7 seconds of me. Nathan texted. 4 words. "Take your calcium supplements." No question mark, no how are you. A prescription, not a conversation. Brielle was the only one who called with emotion. FaceTime. Her eyes were red. "I'm so sorry I couldn't come, Mama. Things have been crazy." What things, I asked. Just life stuff. She wiped her nose. She couldn't give me a single specific. "It's okay, Brielle," I said. Not because it was, but because she was 36 and I was 70, and I had been protecting her feelings since the day she was born. After each call, I updated my notepad. The one from the hospital, date, time, duration, content summary. I added a new column, asked about surgery. 4 entries, 4 no's. Harold used to say you can tell what someone values by what they ask about, not what they say what they ask. None of them asked about the surgery, not the procedure, not the scar, not whether I could bend down to tie my shoes. They asked about dinner supplements and life stuff. Greg showed up 4 weeks after my surgery. First in-person visit. He brought flowers, tulips. I like peonies, but that would require knowing something about me that isn't on a form. He sat in the kitchen for 22 minutes. I timed it. 5 minutes of small talk. The weather. His kid's soccer tournament. His truck needed new tires. Then he reached into his briefcase. "Mom, I need your signature on a refinance document for the company." There it was. I looked at the papers. Business loan restructuring. 3rd refinance in 5 years. New terms, higher interest rate, my name as co-signer on the original note. "Mom, it's standard stuff." "I was an administrator for 40 years, Greg. Let me read." He shifted in his chair, checked his phone twice while I read. He didn't look at my back brace. He didn't ask about the scar running down my spine. He didn't offer to make coffee or carry my laundry or check if my gutters were clear. I signed the papers. I'm still his mother. But after he left, I photographed every page, front and back, sent them to Frank. Later, Frank called back. "Charlotte Gregg's company is hemorrhaging cash. He's pulled 3 refinances in 5 years. Operating costs are double revenue. This signature is a lifeline, not a formality. How much does he owe, including your co-signed debt, north of $400,000? I wrote it in the ledger, page 112. April 2026 refinance co-signer 4th request. He brought tulips. He stayed 22 minutes. He needed my signature. That's what a visit looks like when your mother is a balance sheet. Sharon called 3 days later. This was unusual. Sharon calls once a month on the 15th like a subscription service. This was the 12th. Mom, I've been thinking. That phrase from Sharon always costs me money. Have you ever thought about downsizing? That house is so much work for one person. I manage fine, Sharon. I know you do, but wouldn't a nice condo be easier? No stairs, no yard, no... She said stairs. My stomach tightened. Why was Sharon thinking about stairs? A friend of mine is a realtor. She could just take a look, no pressure. No, thank you. Mom, I'm trying to help. I know what you're trying to do, Sharon. Silence. Then a pivot. Well, just think about it. Love you. After she hung up, I sat with the word stairs. It circled in my head like a bird that couldn't land. I opened the ledger to Sharon's section. I hadn't finished auditing her pages yet, but I added a note in the margin. April 12th, 2026, called about selling house. Did not ask about surgery. Mentioned stairs. Then I flipped backward through the years. Sharon's entries filled 9 pages. Wedding, $2,000, $65,000. I paid for the flowers, the venue, the dress, and the catering after her fiancé's family backed out. Divorce lawyer, 2016, $48,000. Car, 2018, $42,000 for a Lexus. She said she needed for professional appearances. Vacation fund deposits totaling $120,000 over 8 years. Credit card bailouts, $215,000 across 6 cards. Total $490,000. My daughter wanted to sell the house her father built with his own hands. The house where she took her first steps. She didn't even ask about my spine. 6 weeks after my surgery. Early May. I was dusting the living room, something Rosa usually handled, but she had the day off. I was feeling strong enough. 2 miles that morning. No cane. No brace. I passed the hallway table where the landline sits. The answering machine, yes, I still have one. Harold installed it in 1998, and I never saw a reason to change it, had a blinking red light. One new message. I pressed play. Greg's voice. But he wasn't talking to me. He'd called the house number instead of Sharon's cell. An accidental dial. The kind of mistake that happens when your contacts list has your mother and your sister next to each other, and you're not paying attention. Sharon, it's me. Listen, I talked to Nathan last night. We agree if she can't manage stairs anymore, we can get conservatorship. The house alone is worth $1.2 million. Nathan and I already talked to a lawyer. We just need to get her assessed. The sooner the better. Call me back. The machine clicked. The red light went solid. I stood there. The dust rag was still in my hand. Harold's photo watched me from the mantel. I pressed play again. We can get conservatorship. Again. The house alone is worth $1.2 million. 3 times. I listened 3 times. Each time I heard something new. The confidence in his voice. The word assessed like I was a property, not a person. The phrase, the sooner the better urgency, not for my health, but for their timeline. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't call Greg and confront him. I picked up my pen, opened the ledger. May 1st, 2026. Greg voicemail intended for Sharon. Conservatorship discussed. Nathan involved. Lawyer consulted. House value cited $1,200,000. Then I picked up the phone and called Frank Calloway. Frank, we need to meet tomorrow. Bring everything. I stood in my living room listening to my eldest son plan to take away my home, the home his father built with his own hands. If you've ever discovered that someone you loved was working against you behind your back, tell me your story in the comments. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, now's the time. Frank's office smelled like oak and old paper. He'd been practicing estate law from the same building for 38 years. Harold's framed photo was on his bookshelf, the two of them, at a fishing trip in 1992. I placed my phone on his desk and pressed play. Frank listened. His face didn't change until the word conservatorship. Then his jaw tightened. When was this recorded? May 1st. And your children don't know you have it? No, He leaned back. Charlotte conservatorship requires proving you can't manage your own affairs. Can they prove that I managed a $12 million school district budget for 22 years? Good. He wrote something on his legal pad. Then we build a fortress. He outlined a plan. Step 1. Independent cognitive assessment, not from Nathan's hospital, not from anyone connected to the family. Step 2. A full financial audit, every asset, every account, every beneficiary. Step 3. Review Harold's trust. Step 4. Document everything. Do your children know about Harold's trust? Frank asked. No. Do they know about the rental properties? No. He looked at me the way Harold used to look at me when I'd figured something out before he did. Charlotte. You have more leverage than you think. In my head, I heard Maria's voice again. Ma'am, do you even have a family? 6 words that hadn't stopped echoing since March. Frank pulled a folder from his drawer. Harold set this trust up specifically so you'd be the sole trustee. He told me once, and I remember exactly what he said. If the kids ever try something, Charlie will need options. Harold knew. He'd always known. I just hadn't listened. A week later, Frank brought Diane Park his CPA. They sat across from me at Frank's conference table and laid it out. Let's start with the trust, Frank said. Harold established the Wells Family Trust in 2018. Initial funding, $1.8 million. Current value. He slid a statement across the table, $3.4 million. I stared at the number. $3,400,000. Harold had invested in index funds and municipal bonds, the same boring, reliable instruments he always preferred. They'd grown for 6 years without anyone touching them. You're the sole trustee, Diane said. Full discretionary control over distributions. Next, Frank said. The rental properties, 3 units, 1 duplex in Hillcrest, 1 condo near the university. You and Harold purchased them between 1993 and 1997. Current combined market value, $1.1 million. Monthly rental income, $14,000 after expenses. $14,000 a month, I repeated. I'd been living on my pension and Harold's Social Security, eating store-brand cereal, clipping coupons for the Safeway on Elm Street. Your personal savings, $340,000. The house appraised at $1.2 million. Paid off in 2019. Diane put her pen down. Mrs. Wells, your total net worth is approximately $6 million. $6 million. I sat with that number the way you sit with a diagnosis, not believing it at first, then believing it too much. Mrs. Wells, Diane said gently, you could fly first class for the rest of your life. I don't want first class, I said. I want my children to tell the truth. Frank and Diane exchanged a look. $6 million. 4 children who thought I was a burden. I had the leverage. Now I needed the plan. Once you know what someone is planning, you hear everything differently. Nathan called the following Tuesday. Speakerphone his default because he was always multitasking. I could hear Julia in the background, his wife, loading the dishwasher. How's Mom? Julia asked. She's fine physically, Nathan said. Then lower, almost reflexive. But we just need documentation. Documentation. Not treatment, not diagnosis, documentation. I held the phone steady, said nothing, let the silence do its work. Mom, you still there? I'm here, Nathan, just listening. 2 days later, Brielle called about the china, grandmother's Wedgwood set, 24 place settings. Harold and I received them as a wedding gift in 1983. Are you using Grandma's set? Brielle asked. I just want to make sure it's safe. It's in the same cabinet it's been in for 30 years, Brielle. Right, just checking. She wasn't checking. She was inventorying. Then Dorothy, my neighbor for 22 years, my Scrabble partner, the woman who brings me peach cobbler every July, told me something that made the picture complete. Charlotte, your son Greg stopped by last week. Greg came here. Not to your house, to mine. He asked me if you seemed confused lately, if you wandered, if you forgot things. I set down my tea. What did you tell him? I told him you beat me at Scrabble on Tuesday and corrected my tax return on Thursday. Dorothy paused. Charlotte, what's going on? My children are building a case, Dorothy. They want to prove I can't manage my own life. Dorothy's eyes went hard. You manage better than anyone I know. I know, I said, and I have the paperwork to prove it. Frank and I finished the audit on a rainy Thursday in late May. 30 years compressed into 4 columns on a spreadsheet and 217 pages of the ledger. Greg Wells, $580,000. Business startup loan 2008, $200,000. House down payment 2011, $85,000. Children's private school tuition 2015 through 2023, $195,000. Various emergency loans 2020 through 2025, $100,000. Sharon Wells Kavinsky, $490,000. Wedding 20, $1,265,000. Divorce attorney 2016, $48,000. Lexus 2018, $42,000. Ongoing vacation fund deposits $120,000. Credit card bailouts across 6 accounts, $215,000. Nathan Wells, $520,000. Medical school tuition 2014 through 2018, $380,000. Condo down payment 2019, $95,000. Conference travel and professional development $45,000. Brielle Wells, $510,000. College tuition 2012 through 2016, $160,000. Startup capital for wellness brand 2019, $180,000. Credit card debt consolidation $90,000. Rent supplements 2020 through 2024, $80,000. I stared at the total on Frank's spreadsheet. $2,100,000. $2.1 million. That's what invisible looks like in a ledger. Not $1 was repaid, Frank said quietly. Not one. I closed the ledger, opened it to a fresh page, picked up my pen, the black Pilot pen Harold used for formal entries, and wrote, total support provided $2,100,000. Repaid $0. Below that, in Harold's tradition of forward-looking entries, repayment terms to be determined. I remember every dollar, every single one. The $200,000 I wired Greg at 11 p.m. while Harold made coffee. The $48,000 for Sharon's divorce lawyer because she called me sobbing at 2 a.m. The 4 years of Nathan's medical school that I paid semester by semester without complaint. Every single one. Rosa found the iPad. We were cleaning out Harold's study, something I'd been putting off for 6 years. Behind a stack of old engineering journals wedged between the bookshelf and the wall was the family iPad. The one we used to share photos at Thanksgiving, the one nobody had asked about in years. Rosa plugged it in. The screen lit up, still synced to the family Apple account. Mrs. Wells, Rosa said slowly, you should see this. She handed me the iPad. The Notes app was open, synced across all devices. At the top of the shared notes was one titled Mom Situation, created by Greg, shared with Sharon Nathan Brielle. I read it. The first entry was a rotation schedule. Dated March the same week as my surgery. Each name had a week assigned. Below each name in parentheses, couldn't make it, schedule conflict. Will send delivery instead, sent flowers. Below the schedule, a section labeled House. Greg had typed Zillow estimate $1.2 million. Needs minor repair. Realtor contact Diane Pruitt Summit, R.E. Below that, Nathan. Age-related cognitive benchmarks downloadable from NIH baseline assessment, recommended before any legal action. And at the bottom, a message from Sharon dated April 28th. Just get it done before she changes the will. I read every word. Rosa watched my face. She told me later she expected tears. She expected shaking. I didn't give her either. I screenshotted every page, 43 screenshots. Then I opened the ledger and noted May 18th, 2026, family iPad recovered, shared note, mom situation, contents documented. Rosa, I said, how do you make copies at the library? She looked at me. Mrs. Wells, I think you already know. Mom situation. That's what they called me, not mom, a situation. By the end of May, I had assembled what Frank called the most organized elder defense file he'd seen in 38 years of practice. We met at his office, Frank Diane, the CPA, and a third attorney named Margaret Liu. Margaret specialized in conservatorship defense and elder law. Frank had brought her in after hearing the voicemail. Margaret reviewed everything: the voicemail transcript, the group chat screenshots, the ledger audit. She was quiet for a long time. Mrs. Wells, she said finally, this isn't just a family dispute. If your children file for conservatorship using fabricated evidence of cognitive decline that constitutes elder abuse under both state and federal statutes. I don't want to sue my children, Margaret. Then what do you want? I thought about it. Harold's photo was in my bag. I'd started carrying it with me. I want them to sit in a room and hear the truth, all of it, in front of people they can't lie to afterward. Margaret nodded. Public accountability, not a courtroom, a community setting. The church community hall, I said. It's where we held Harold's memorial. Everyone in town knows that room. Frank leaned forward. When? July. I want to be fully healed first. I want to walk in there without a cane, without a brace, standing on my own 2 feet. And if they challenge afterward, Margaret asked, then we have the voicemail, the group chat, and a Johns Hopkins cognitive assessment that says I'm sharper than all 4 of them combined, plus a 30-year ledger showing $2.1 million in unreturned support. Margaret smiled for the first time. Mrs. Wells, I think your children underestimated you. Most people do, I said. Harold never did. June was a month of quiet moves. I changed the locks on the rental properties. Greg had spare keys Harold had given them to him years ago for emergencies. In 12 years, Greg had used them once to store construction equipment in the Hillcrest duplex without asking. I hadn't said anything then. I was saying something now. Frank and I updated my will. The current version, drafted in 2019, split everything equally among 4 children. The new version, all distributions suspended pending trust restructuring. The trust restructuring document was 27 pages long. Margaret drafted it. Diane reviewed the tax implications. I read every page twice. Future distributions from the Harold Wells Family Trust would be contingent upon 4 conditions. First, documented quarterly visits to me, minimum 4 hours each. No financial requests permitted during the visit. Second, active participation in my healthcare decisions, including accompaniment to at least 2 medical appointments per year. Third, completion of an accredited family caregiving course, 40 hours certified. Fourth, a formal written apology, not to me, to Nurse Maria at Valley General Hospital. The woman who asked if I had a family. I ordered business cards. A small thing, maybe. But I wanted to see the words in print, Charlotte Wells, Trustee, Wells Family Trust. I walked 2 miles every morning without the cane, past Dorothy's house, past the church, past the Little League field where Greg used to play shortstop, past the elementary school where I'd worked for a decade before moving to administration. I hadn't felt this strong since Harold was alive, maybe stronger. Harold never had to fight his own children. Greg came back in early June. This time he brought Dana, his wife. They cleaned the gutters, unprompted. I watched them from the kitchen window, Greg on the ladder, Dana holding it steady. They worked for 45 minutes. It was the most time Greg had spent at my house since Harold's funeral. Afterward, tea in the living room. "Mom," Greg started. He had that tone, the one he uses before asking for money or proposing something he knows I won't like. "Have you given any more thought to what Sharon mentioned about downsizing? I have a 4-bedroom house and 1 body." I said, "I'm aware of the ratio. It's a lot of house for one person. The upkeep, the stairs." Stairs. There it was again. The same word from the voicemail. Dana shifted on the couch. She looked uncomfortable. Not guilty uncomfortable. She wasn't in on it. I could tell by the way she kept glancing at Greg, trying to read his script in real time. "We're just worried, Mom," Dana said. I studied her face. She meant it. Dana had always been the decent one in that marriage. She just didn't know what Greg was really after. "Thank you, Dana. I appreciate the concern." After they left 53 minutes total, I made my notes. June 3rd, Greg plus Dana. 53 minutes. Cleaned gutters, unsolicited. Mentioned stairs twice. Downsizing pushed again. Dana appears unaware of conservatorship plan. He cleaned my gutters. Then he tried to clean me out. The difference between help and strategy is intention. Greg's gutters were a deposit on goodwill. The kind you make before a withdrawal. I wasn't going to be the withdrawal. Sharon flew in from Arizona the 2nd week of June. "Surprise, Mom," she said at the door, arms-wide sunglasses on her head designer bag over her shoulder. First visit since before my surgery. 4 months. She brought wine, a Napa Cabernet $80 bottle. I don't drink. I've told her this at least 30 times over the past 20 years. She also showed me photos from her Cabo trip. The one she took the week after my surgery. The one I funded through the vacation account. She swiped through poolside selfies and sunset cocktails without any awareness that those sunsets had been purchased with my checks. Then casually, like mentioning the weather, "Mom, I drove past this lovely place yesterday. Sunrise Senior Living. Beautiful gardens. Great reviews." She pulled a brochure from her purse. Glossy. Dog-eared. She'd read it more than once. I took it. Read it calmly. "Turn to the pricing page. $8,500 a month for a shared room," I said. $12,000 for a private suite. See, very reasonable. Sharon, I managed a $12 million budget. I can do that math. $12,000 a month is $144,000 a year for a room smaller than your bathroom in Scottsdale. She blinked, recovered. I just thought, "I know what you thought." After she left, I photographed the brochure. Front, back, and the dog-eared page. Added it to the file. That evening, Rosa showed me something on the family iPad. Sharon's recent Google search history still synced conservatorship process. How to get guardianship of elderly parent. Power of attorney versus conservatorship. She brought me a brochure for a place to put me away and a bottle of wine I can't drink. At least the brochure was more honest. My daughter handed me a brochure for assisted living while my 4 rental properties were earning $14,000 a month. Sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones you raised. If this story has you gripping your phone right now, drop a comment and tell me, would you have stayed quiet this long? Nathan called the last week of June. Professional tone, measured, the same voice he uses with patients. "Mom, I've been thinking. At your age, after a major surgery, it might be smart to get a cognitive assessment, just a baseline, for your records." "That's a good idea, Nathan." Silence. He hadn't expected agreement. "Really great. I can set it up at Mercy General. Dr. Whitfield is—" No. I'll choose my own physician. Mom, Mercy General has excellent— Nathan, you work at Mercy General. You're an attending physician there. You referred your own colleague. I'm not getting assessed by someone who owes you a professional courtesy. Longer silence. I'm just trying to help. I know exactly what you're trying to do. I called Johns Hopkins the next day, scheduled a Montreal cognitive assessment, the gold standard for evaluating cognitive function in adults. 2 weeks later, I drove 90 minutes to Baltimore, sat in a room with Dr. Amara Patel, and completed every section: memory recall, visuospatial ability, language, attention, orientation, abstraction. Score 29 out of 30. Top 5% for my age group. I lost 1 point on the clock drawing task. I made the 7 look like a 1. At 70, I'll accept that trade. Dr. Patel looked at me over her reading glasses. Mrs. Wells, your cognitive function is exceptional. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm staying sharp for a family meeting. She smiled. They won't know what hit them. I drove home with the sealed assessment in a manila envelope on the passenger seat. I wrote on the front in black marker, "For July." My son, the doctor, wanted me assessed by his colleagues. I chose Johns Hopkins. There's a difference between a diagnosis and a setup. Late June. The garden was in full bloom. Harold's oak tree was thick with leaves. I sat on the porch with my coffee and called each child. Same script, one at a time. I'd like to have a family meeting at the church community hall about my will and the future of your father's trust, Saturday, July 12th, 2 o'clock. Greg confirmed in 8 seconds. Absolutely, Mom. I'll clear the day. Sharon confirmed in 12. Of course I'll fly in Friday. Nathan confirmed in 6. I'll be there. Brielle confirmed in 4. Yes, Mama. Not one scheduling conflict. Not one, let me check my calendar. Not one, can we do it next month? The word will clears schedules. The word trust opens calendars. For my surgery, they couldn't find the time. For the inheritance, they cleared their calendars in 30 seconds flat. Later that evening, Frank called. He'd been monitoring phone records, something Margaret had recommended as a precaution. Charlotte Gregg called Sharon 9 minutes after you hung up. What did he say? We don't have the content, but the call lasted 14 minutes. I could imagine it. Greg's voice eager. She said will. She said trust. This could be it. Maybe she's finally ready to divide things up. Sharon's voice, about time. I looked at Harold's photo on the mantel, the anniversary picture. His blue tie, my green dress. They're all coming, Harold, every single one. For the first time since he died, I felt like he was standing next to me. Not as a ghost, as a partner. The way he always stood a half step behind, one hand on my shoulder. Watch this, I whispered. The morning of July 12th, I woke at 5. The sun was barely up. Birds in Harold's oak tree cardinals like every summer. Rosa arrived at 7. She'd offered to help me get ready. She wasn't on the clock. She came as a friend. I showered, dressed, navy blazer white blouse, the outfit I used to wear to school board presentations, the one that said I have prepared, I have data, and I am not here to negotiate. Rosa ironed the collar. You look like a woman who knows exactly what she's doing. I am. I packed my bag, checked off each item. Ledger, original Harold's leather, 30 years of entries. I held it for a moment. It smelled like his desk. 4 packets copies of the ledger pages, 1 per child with their specific entries highlighted in yellow. Each packet was 20 to 30 pages